Now this next series of shots is kind of interesting. We'd observed this storm from its beginnings as a humble cumulus through its becoming a thunderstorm and then a severe thunderstorm and then beginning to develop a wall cloud. At this point we were really moving fast, 60 to 70 miles an hour, along these dirt roads, farm roads in central Kansas. Here we're headed just about due north, and so is the storm. The storm was just slightly east of north. So basically we're behind the storm and on a course that's parallel to it. So this gives us a beautifully clear vantage of the center of circulation and potentially the tornado if one should form. What you can't tell from this photo is that I'm actually hanging out the SUV window with the camera held with both hands up high above the roof of the SUV, pointed forward. We were moving at high speed, and there wasn't much opportunity for photography. So this was one of a series of photos, which I'll now show you. Not terribly well framed or composed. That's because I couldn't see what I was shooting and was basically taking a series of shots blind so that we could later go back and get a better sense of what was developing around us. One last thing about this photo, if you look in the lower left-hand corner, you can see that another storm chasing group has pulled over to the right side of the road to let us by. We were probably the fastest moving group at that point. And just a few seconds later, panned the camera a little bit to the left and caught this view of the developing wall cloud. I really like this shot. I didn't know I got it at the time, and you can get an idea of that by looking at the lower left of the photo where you can see the roof and part of the roof rack of the SUV where I was sticking my hand up over the roof. And there's a little more of it, but you also can see the more definition in the wall. We stopped after a while and got out to take better photos. There was very little rotation at this point, and the wall cloud appeared to have gotten a little lighter in color. There was a little more daylight, and although there was still a strong updraft, standing here we could feel the wind being drawn past us into the center of the storm. It still was not at this point about to spawn the tornado. It looked like it was developing and would happen, but had not yet happened. Looking up at the edge of the anvil was just spectacular. This was an enormous storm going up someplace between 30 and 50,000 feet. Some beautiful cumulus. And you may notice from the reflection in the center of this photo, we're back in the SUV. That's because we had stopped in the southeast quadrant of the storm, which was moving to the north. So while we took photos, the storm was actually moving away from us. So after a very few minutes, we all piled back in the SUV and started heading northward to catch up with the storm. And we did. This photo may not look like much at first, but I'm actually particularly proud of it. We were paralleling the storm, which was off to our left. We were on roads that were dusty, but had recently been rained on. So the combination of dust in the air and wet vehicles and water splashing up from the road meant that the SUVs were essentially coated in mud, including the side windows, making it nearly impossible to see out of. So what I did here, we knew we were paralleling the storm. It looked like a hook echo was forming. No calls yet had gone out for actually sighting the tornado, but it looked like there was going to be one, and it was going to happen very, very soon. So, unable to see out the windows, I rolled down my window and once again stuck my arms out over the roof of the SUV and took a series of photos. Two of them were particularly interesting. This one captures the funnel, the vortex of this storm just as it's about to touch down. So this is the actual birth of the Quinter tornado. And a few moments later, you can begin to see the dust cloud forming around the tip of the funnel. So this is the actual touchdown. And what had been a severe thunderstorm with rotation, a mesocyclone, was now officially spawning a tornado. In these shots, we're paralleling the storm. The shot is looking to our left as we're heading north and the storm is heading north. What our tour leader wanted to do was to try to get ahead of the storm and see if there was a way to jog left to get closer to the vortex. The storm was progressing in a fairly straight path, and he thought it would be reasonably safe to try to get a little closer. So that's what he did. We ran north at high speed to get ahead of the storm and passed through the small town of Quinter at the intersection of the road we were on and Interstate 70. All the tornado sirens were blaring as we went through Quinter. It was very, very dark, almost like early evening dark, even though this was midday. Cars all had their headlights on. Many cars and people were huddled under the interstate overpass as we went through. You're not supposed to do that, but I guess it's almost like a natural instinct to want to get under something when the sky looks as ominous as it did. There were emergency vehicles heading on every road we could see with lights flashing. It was quite a scene, very noisy, a lot of adrenaline pumping. And then we got on Interstate 70. Most of the traffic had stopped. Most of the traffic had pulled over to wait to see what the storm was going to do. We got on the westbound lanes and began heading west to see if we could get closer to the storm. And it's a little hard to see if you're going through these shots for the first time, but what we didn't notice yet, but which is now obvious in retrospect, is that the funnel was getting larger. When we did realize that we actually had gone too far in intercepting the storm and were now in its direct path, that a bit of mild panic ensued. I stopped taking still photos at that point and switched to video mode.